The way these bitches out my god, swear it was 1985 and Teen Wolf just dropped. And my name was Michael J. Fox, but no, bitch, it's Adam Pecora. And you've tuned in to Requiem for a Tuesday. It's episode 187, the murder episode. Dun 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 dun. I technically have a subject that kind of ties into that, but ultimately not really. Detroit 187, Danny Brown doing a show about tires being blown out and Tires, a TV show. They're only correlated by tires. And one's about murder. So we connected all three of those together beautifully right there. Your boys out here hopped up off a Zinachino on a beautiful Memorial Day afternoon. Bringing some love to everybody out there. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Requiem for a Tuesday, wherever you listen to it. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, any of the other random ones out there. We're on Audible. We're on iHeartRadio. You name it, we're on it. Ladies and gentlemen. We got merch, rfat.bigcartel.com. My Instagram is adam.rfat. If you are so inclined to check anything out, we got links in the description below to the music, the merch, to everything. Multiplex, Wolfx, a lot of good songs in there for your enjoyment. So we got a whole plethora of goodies. Check the links below to discover more. But leave a comment. Leave me a nice review. Be sweet, please. I'm a sensitive little boy. And, share this around. Let's get these numbers up. We're actually at an unprecedented download rate. So thanks to everybody going back through the archives. Whoever's doing that out there, we appreciate you. Let's keep this trend going. New episodes. Where are my people at, though? We gotta have people catching up here. The new ones are kind of slacking, so hopefully this one breaks that mold. Either way, we appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Making me talking alone in my little roomy studio make it not so alone, knowing there's beautiful people like you out there with your ears open, along with your hearts. All right, enough stupid shit. Let's just get into it, finally. Let's get right into it. 5 minutes in. What do we want to do first today, ladies and gentlemen? I guess if we want to keep the theme fun and loose, we'll go with the offshoot one. We'll start with a little show called Tires. Instantly #1 on Netflix. Shout out to the dogs. This is a huge victory for the boys. If you don't know, the newest, really the first, I guess, true show from Shane Gillis. If you don't know the story, little quick recap. Got unfairly fired from his job at SNL. Well, I guess it's kind of fair technically, but salty shit before he started. How I heard of him. Guy blew up at an insane rate ever since. For example, saw him at Zany's standard-sized comedy club here. The next year, he was back and was at the Chicago Theater. And after that, multiple show run at the Chicago Theater, all sold out. Pretty impressive. Anyway, the guy is everywhere now. Self-produced a sketch series along with his pals, and it was excellent. A couple editions of that, and I guess he made a pilot for a show way back, independently produced as well, and then as he blew up, decided, let's just make a whole little season, and then was able to sell it to Netflix after a couple successful specials, one of which on Netflix. I think that pretty much brings us up to speed here. Now, what is this show, Tires? I will just say, as far as producing, albeit a very short, small, quick season, 6 episodes, all, 22 minutes or less, I would say, give or take maybe. There's a couple that go over. Wasn't clocking it too hard, to be honest. It's very impressive. I mean, the same thing was true with the sketch show Gillian Keeves, just a production level that really you shouldn't be able to achieve doing it completely on your own. Like, even just having the know-how to get this all done and executed so well is very impressive. Essentially, the plot of the show is there's a little dork kid. I mean, he's in his, like, 30s, but whatever. Is given a job by his dad to manage one of his multiple tire shops. This is like a fictional tire, local mechanic chain, does oil changes, shit like that. Little Jiffy Lube-esque small business. And he's obviously very incompetent, and that leads to funny situations, and he clashes with the brash broness of Shane Gillis's character and the many other more, let's say, masculine characters at the shop, for lack of a better term, including the woman who works there, who is just a white trash drunk, and that's fun. Wonderfully portrayed by Stavros Halkias, a legend in the making. He's like the regional manager who is also... Basically, everybody's just an incompetent, kind of selfish asshole who just wants to fuck off. And whatever. There is a potential sale being flirted around. The shop is struggling. And so everybody's just kind of like trying to save the shop, but they're also failing because everybody's, just wants to get drunk and have a good time. Pretty basic, loose plot. I've seen the biggest criticism of this show being that it's one note, which I do kind of see. I mean, it is a 6-episode, almost like proof of concept, since it was all independently produced and apparently on a very tight shooting schedule. So that, one location essentially, and, it all moves fast, and it is a little one note, but it's a fun note of just people busting balls, having fun. Now, if this were 23 episodes, like, no doubt you would get fatigued by this just being the same thing over and over again. You don't really learn much backstory about anybody the whole time. You kind of learn about the manager, who's the dorky guy messing things up, towards the end when they finally introduce his dad, and the dad is basically just like, the kid's a loser who can't get anything done, and I just keep helping him out, and he just keeps failing and costing me money. He basically blows the sale of the company, and it all wraps up neatly with them discovering that he finally had one good idea after the show opens with him having a terrible idea of doing like a women's promo for the fucking mechanic shop. Other than that, they just try. The show has very low stakes in every episode. It's like, we're going to do the women's promo. The next one's like, we're just going to try to upsell a bunch of stuff. And there's, not a whole lot of plot, again, no character development really at all. And, it was already renewed for season 2 before the premiere even, so I guess they were very confident, and rightfully so. It worked out. So I think maybe season 2, they will probably dive a little more into who the people actually are, a little bit of backstory. At one point, Shane's old friend comes through, and you discover that his friend's doing very well, and he's just kind of clearly like, I've lived here my whole life, small town kind of thing. It's all very much in the same vein of his stage comedy and all that stuff, and just his general life, it seems like, if you're a fan of the pod or anything like that, as your boy is. But yeah, it's a fun watch for a quick thing, get stoned, have a couple chuckles. Nothing groundbreaking here, but promising, because the cast is all great. You can see all the potential, and it's fun that it's clearly just like his whole crew and group of friends that has been like coming together over the past however many years. So an exciting potential that's not quite 100% fleshed out, but hopefully we'll get there, because I am, a fan. There's not a whole lot of good shows coming out, really, especially in the sitcom comedy realm in general. And now that Curb is gone, not that this is improv or even to that level in any way, but we need a nice solid comedy series. We need some nice solid comedy films, which is hopefully what this will lead to as well. And yeah, a little bit more about what it represents than what it is. Not the greatest product in the world, but it's essentially like a blue collar office style show. You know, funny gags here and there, nothing like super memorable where it's like, oh, I can't believe I need to talk about this. Like moments within the show, but there's good stuff throughout. Go check it out. Not a huge waste of your time or ask of your time, really, even. You can knock the whole thing out pretty quick. And if you're not into it, you wasted 20 minutes, not the end of the world. Not asking a lot from you, which is huge. So that's Tires. That's our Motor City Detroit 187 episode connection. Going into some more automotive stuff. Blowout. Also 187, a murder mystery movie. Let's get the details pulled up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I was pretty much not aware of this film. Feel like I've heard it mentioned in passing by like Bill Simmons and shit. But it doesn't show up in like classics lists that you typically see. I feel like Brian De Palma himself has really kind of taken like a back seat in terms of notoriety. Now, not within true like film nerd circles, but I would just say in terms of like general, what's the word I want to use? Not representation. Whatever. General accolades, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say here. I feel like he's kind of taken a back seat in his reputation as a master filmmaker. Now, I'm not saying that he's not. Just pointing that out. A little bit unfair to BDP. Okay? This is a huge favorite of Tarantino, who has said this would be one of his Desert Island movies, is a huge De Palma fan. Obviously, this is like a grindhousey, gritty thriller with, you know, just a purely like dark, cynical plot and message the whole time. There's not a whole lot of like redeeming fun qualities in here. This is a very like negative, cynical movie in my opinion. Now there's some good jokes and humor sprinkled in. This is a movie starring John Travolta, who plays like an audio engineer, sound tech guy for movies, who like goes out and records, you know, what's the word? Like live audio to use for sound effects and overdubbing, and, you know, goes and records in the woods, trees breaking, you know, whatever shit, audio, extra things you need to layer into a movie. He's the one doing that. And while doing that, he inadvertently records a huge accident. He just has the sound going by some lake, and then all of a sudden, bang, and a car drives off a bridge, and he saves a girl who's trapped inside, but realizes that the driver is dead. And that leads to a whole thing where basically the cops don't believe him that there was a girl in there, and they're clearly trying to cover something up. And it's later revealed that that was the governor in the car. And since there was a girl in the back who's not his wife, they don't want that to get out. But he discovers within his audio recording that there was a gunshot and somebody shot out the tire, and he believes it's an assassination attempt. But since the police have an objective to bury what happened because of the girl, you know, they're trying to tell her to skip town, don't talk to anybody, like just let this go. Like, we're not going to ask questions, whatever. They're not looking into it or investigating it at all. They want it to go away, like, oh, it was an accident. But he's trying to be adamant that something happened, but they don't want to look into it. And then he keeps pestering them. But it was a conspiracy to kill the guy, so the people who killed the guy are trying to undo him, trying to convince them and just let it go away like they want. and whatever. You get the point. It's a little back and forth where they're trying to stop John Travolta and nobody will listen to John Travolta. So when he gets thwarted, it then further disproves him and they really don't want to hear it and blah, 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 blah. You can understand. It just keeps going around in circles and more negative and more difficult for Johnny. John Lithgow is the guy who they're after, or who is after them, effectively trying to tie up all the loose ends because he is the one who shot out the tire. Dennis Franz is loosely connected with the girl because they were in the middle of a blackmail thing, and then Lithgow basically went rogue and shot the tire out because that was the plan he liked better, and he's an absolute fucking psychopath. John Lithgow, way too fucking good at playing murderers. If you're familiar with Dexter Season 4, he's unbelievable in it. And kind of a scary guy, I gotta say. Seems like a nice, charming man in interviews and stuff, but way too good at the psychopath thing. As evidenced in this movie. Going back to Dennis Franz, the worst performance of the movie by a million miles. He just has this really hammy accent and is a complete cartoon character the whole time. It's pretty grating. Anyway, this movie, I'll get a little deeper into the plot as we go along, but this movie kind of came out, had high expectations, and just completely bombed at the box office and kind of faded into obscurity, but has since been critically reappraised, as so often happens with these great directors back then. Whereas now I feel like we recognize it up front and then we don't really look back as much. It's kind of strange how that's working out. Obviously, only time will tell as to how that goes, 10 years from now for movies that have come out recently, but we'll see. This is like a true noir thriller. It's been compared to Hitchcock. It is kind of Hitchcockian. Not that I'm the biggest Hitchcock guy. Honestly, that's a huge blind spot in my movie history. But this movie's fucking awesome. It's also like an ode to movie making because of Travolta. They show a lot of the technical aspects of his work as a sound guy. Dennis Franz was out there also filming, as I said, because he's trying to get the blackmail. So he's able to get a hold of Dennis Franz's footage, and they show him kind of splicing it together with his sound footage. So they kind of show the art of movie making along the way, and that's really what the core of this is trying to do, is De Palma really just like pouring out his fucking love for doing this shit. So that's honestly my favorite part of the whole thing. But the mystery in general is great and riveting, and the thriller element of it is very exciting. My biggest criticism, though, is like, okay, so you rescue a girl from a car. And obviously, like, I can see, like, having an urge to want to, like, connect with her and talk to her and, like, try to figure out what the fuck happened and, like, be like, can we, like, have a moment? Like, this was also crazy for me. I can only imagine what you're going through. All that type of shit. I get it. But to, like, instantly be like, I'm just in love with you. I think this is my biggest gripe with most 80s movies, is that, like, now we spend way too much time trying to get so much backstory on every character, and that's why every movie's fucking 2.5 hours, and that we can't just get right into it. Maybe not even right into it, but we can't get into it quick enough. I guess my argument for the 80s stuff is that we're getting into it too quickly. Where it's like, okay, rescued her from the car, but you don't question why she's with the governor in the car. He, like, finds out later that she's part of some scheme. Now, she should have admitted that up front. Or just been like, you don't want to know, like, I'm bad news, whatever. Just some way to, like, allude that there was something nefarious going on. I mean, either way, why is he in the car? There's a reason they're trying to bury it. And he just doesn't question any of this. And is just, like, obsessed with her and in love with her and just, like, wants to go out with her so bad. And it's like, you literally don't know her. And she constantly keeps saying that. She's like, I have no idea who you are. So at least there's that. But she's clearly charmed because it's John fucking Travolta who works in the movie industry. And it's like, I kind of get her reasoning for that. But he comes off like a complete creep. It's very strange that he's just, like, instantly so enamored and doesn't have any questions. And it's just like, yeah, tell me about yourself. I don't really care about the backstory of any of this. That's fucking crazy, okay? You're in the governor's car and he just got murdered and you don't have any questions. You're just like, let's go to dinner. Like, what are we doing here? That's fucking crazy. Anyway, So basically, the other element of the governor is that they're alluding that he was like the next presidential hopeful. So this was like a crazy politically motivated thing, not just like beyond just trying to kill the governor. It's like an RFK situation, kind of. So anyway, as we go, we just kind of slowly discover more and more as they try to convince the police of what they're saying. He drops off the tape with the audio. The cops are like, we went through it. It got erased. So there's somebody inside working with it or whatever. John Lithgow's just that good. That, not 100% clear, whatever. Maybe I just missed something. And then they discover by finding Dennis Franz that, they're just a scheme within a scheme of the greater thing. And Lithgow basically, in trying to tie up the loose ends, they unveil that he's gone completely rogue. And the guy that hired him to just try to do the original thing is like, dude, you don't fucking know me. Like, get away from here. Don't talk to me. Like, goodbye. Which, in the 80s, you could just disappear. Just start going to a different fucking office or whatever, and you're gone. You're not in a scheme anymore. Just fucking move 6 blocks. Nobody will ever find you again. In order to further tie up loose ends, he begins killing look-alike women. I think the first one's on accident. Like, he thinks it's the real chick who was in the car. Unclear, but either way, he begins literally doing a false flag serial killing where he kills women that look like her, and stabs the Liberty Bell into their chest, and he becomes like the Liberty Bell killer, which is fucking insane. And basically it all concludes. There's a backstory that ties into this conclusion where prior to working in the movies, Travolta was a sound guy for the police, and he wired a guy and he wired him wrong, and the battery burned him, and he got found out for wearing the wire, and so they killed the guy, and it was basically Travolta's fault. So he's like a traumatized tough guy hiding behind those feelings of when the job went wrong, like that type of thing. So they end up like with no resort but to, he wires the girl because Lithgow fakes that he's a TV reporter that Travolta was in contact with, and then he disables Travolta's phone because his phone was tapped. It's all very elaborate, incredibly well done. And so Lithgow hears that, then calls the chick separately, pretends that he's the reporter. She doesn't know what the reporter sounds like or whatever. And Travolta's like, all of this is very fishy, so let's wiretap you. Where it's literally like, just go with her. I don't know why you need to wiretap it. Just go with. You know who the fucking reporter guy is. If you trust him, just show up with her. So all of that's very crazy. Kind of an easy out for them, but whatever. He wiretaps her, and it's Lithgow, and Lithgow traps her, is about to kill her, and they end up in, like, the Liberty Bell Day parade, whatever, and Travolta loses her in a crowd. Lithgow gets away with it. Travolta gets there 10 seconds too late. She's already dead. Honestly, the timing, Lithgow's so far away. The fact that it's even close is absurd. Like, she should be dead. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of had no argument there, so she does not survive. And then it all wraps up cleanly together with Travolta having the recording of her wiretap being used in the film he was working on from the jump at the beginning of the movie. They couldn't get a good scream overdub for a girl. It's like some dumb slasher movie, and they needed a good scream for when the girl in the shower gets murdered. Now, I will say, he like listens, they play it back right at the end, and he overdubs the scream in. And like you could see it coming from a mile away, but it's also like the ethics of this are really fucking shady. Like, you went through all of this crazy shit and you just end up putting it in this shitty B-movie slasher, like kind of as an homage to her, but it's also kind of dark. It's like she's literally getting murdered. Like, this is actually kind of really fucked up for you to completely take this girl's murder scream and put it in the movie just because it worked. Like, there's supposed to be this like emotional ending, but it's technically kind of really fucked up in my opinion. A little bit of a quarry, little ethical quarry there. Quagmire? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Conundrum? He is like visibly distraught over it or whatever. But it is like a nice bow tie ending. But if you think about it for a second, it's like, oh, I don't know, man. That's kind of like really fucked up. But a great movie. A little noir, gritty, classic. There's some dull moments here and there. But once the ball really gets rolling, you kind of get lost in it. You get a little confusing. There's a lot of deep layers to, like, it's a real conspiracy / thriller thing. So there's a lot of depth to it. And then again, I can't emphasize enough with the craftsman movie making ode to all of that element. With De Palma, I mean, flawless direction. He does that great dual shot thing where it's like someone's face up close and then a thing in the distance. I forget what that's called. But it's just excellent. Great score, great everything. So, I mean, go watch this. This was free to watch on like Tubi, I believe. Or maybe it was on Paramount Plus. I can't quite remember. But I want to say it was free on Tubi, which is free, period. And I believe it's like vaguely a remake type thing, or at least inspired by a very specific movie. A lot of influence on like Italian cinema, apparently. Again, your boy doesn't go international, let alone international like classics. That is a complete blind spot for me as well. I mean, like Fellini and all those type of people. I got nothing. Even Argento, like nothing. Haven't seen him, unfortunately. Your boy's a surface level movie guy compared to the real cinema heads out there. But this movie's fucking awesome. It's got elements of so many things. Little bit of horror, noir, mystery, like conspiracy. It's great. Plus, you know, little comedy in there, a little love story in there, like just a whole lot going on. So check out Blowout, baby. That's my fucking tire murder content for the 187 episode. What do we think? I'm going 1,000 miles an hour. My heart might explode, so this may be the last episode ever. Just kidding. I'll be fine. But, whew, I don't know if I was breathing for that whole episode, frankly. You know, Brian De Palma is one of those guys who just kind of worked. He just loved working. He was way less selective with his stuff. And maybe that's part of the reason. But I don't know. Scorsese did the same thing. Maybe just had a higher percentage, higher batting average under his belt. Listen, it's not, nobody should feel terrible for Brian De Palma. He gets plenty of recognition. But I'm just saying. Might need to do more De Palma flicks on the episode. I think that's my revelation, is like, wow, how was I missing this? You know, I finally saw French Connection for the first time. That was unbelievable. I think maybe that's what this summer is going to be. A little more heavy hitter classics that we're not talking about enough. We'll see. I don't know. This may have opened a door. I may completely blow it off, as I have known to do in the past. So we'll see. Thank you for tuning in to Requiem for a Tuesday, Detroit 187 episode, sponsored by Danny Brown. Not actually. I don't know if you're allowed to say that if it's not true. So nobody sue me, please. Rate, review, and subscribe to Requiem for a Tuesday on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, you name it. I did this at the beginning, but I'm going to do it again. Check out all the links in the description below. We got Justice's show. We got my music with Justice. We got my solo music. We got, again, the merch, email, YouTube, you name it. We got it all. rfat.bigcartel.com, rfatpodcast@gmail.com, adam.rfat on Instagram. Share the episodes, guys. Let's get these numbers up. We appreciate you listening. Continue to do so. We're going to have a fucking great summer. Now that Memorial Day's passed, here we are. So let's enjoy it together. This lovely, beautiful voice coming at you next week. Yet again. So thanks for listening. Share the episode. Subscribe. Review. Thanks again. And remember, I are fat. You are fat. We are fat. Calculator.